Welcome to my studio. We can feel fall in the air here, and I'm so excited about our fall decorations. This is the weaved mesh pumpkin. This is a fun idea. We're going to use a frame from the dollar store, so let's get started. To do this project, I found a form, and this was at the Dollar Tree. I've also seen them at the different dollar stores, so you can kind of look. They may be a little bit different, but it'll kind of give you an idea. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the garland off of it that's already on here, and kind of find a spot, maybe the top or the bottom, that you know is the end or beginning, and if you can't find it, just cut one and make one. But I do save it to use it for other projects. I know that that's the end right there. I'm going to go ahead and cut that. Well, I might hold on to that. Okay, there we go. So now that we've got it, it's got all these different nubs that it's stuck on. So we're going to just start unwinding it. And you may find it easier to do it on the bottom or the top, but once you kind of see how these little nubs are, I think you'll find it a lot easier to unwind them once you figure out which direction those are going. So we'll also take off the face and just continue unraveling all of it till you get it all done. And for right now, I'm going to leave the stem. I haven't decided, on the last time I took it apart, but I haven't decided if I'm going to leave it on this time or not. So we'll figure that out a little bit later on. Now that I've got it all unwrapped, we're going to take some wire cutters and we're going to just clip all of these nubs off and get them out of our way. And we want them kind of flush and as nice as you can get them so they don't catch on the mesh. So I'm going to do them all the way around the outside. I'm going to do these little guys in the middle as well. But I think these guys right here, I don't think they're going to really catch on anything. If you have some that may, then just go ahead and remove those. But I don't think they're going to get caught on anything. And I have a couple up here that I'm going to remove as well. So get all of those trimmed off and we'll start applying our mesh. So I'm going to start my mesh, and all the rest of it we'll have to pull through, but this first row we'll put it through and it'll make it a little bit easier. And if you even wanted to try and do a couple of rows working your way backwards, you can, and you'll understand what I mean once we get going here. And so I'm going to take this in part and I'm going to tie it off, and I'm going to use a pipe cleaner. And if you wanted to just kind of tuck it or glue it in or whatever you wanted to do, you can do that. And I actually got this one backwards. I need to start with my first one going over so that we can have that first one tucked in. And so we can go around and then tie it off. So we're going to go around and tie that right there with our orange pipe cleaner and just hide that. We don't really want that to show. If you want to do a different color than orange, you may want to spray paint your form a different color or the frame. And so what I want to do now, those first ones on the edges, I'm going to kind of leave a little bit tighter, but these other ones we want to kind of start to pull them out a little bit and fill them up, and probably we'll do them a little bit later on as we continue working down, because as we're working in each section we pull it. So now we're going to have to undo our our mesh here, and you may want to stop and just do it in sections that you're comfortable with instead of doing the whole thing. If you want to do the whole thing, you can, whatever you're comfortable with, because we've got to run all of these through and just keep on weaving them. And what I do is I kind of twist it around and kind of make almost like a needle type point, and that makes it easier to weave through and doesn't quite get stuck in a lot of the stuff as I'm working it as well. So this one we have here, so we're going to go around that now and up and over this. So you're always going to go opposite of whatever you did on the last one. And in each section we want to get about at least 3 rows and of the meshed. So, and I'm going to come back and tighten those up, and we want to keep these straight too. We don't want them twisted as we're getting there. So we've twisted this, so kind of remember if we need to that we've got to untwist those as well. So I'm going to pull this here. And if you need to untwist it, stop and untwist it. And this is going to take a little bit of work here. So that one was under. So that one, we want to make sure we're doing the opposite of. So I skipped one here. So be careful with that. You always want to make sure that you're hitting every single one of those, and if you're the same as the row above it, then you've got something wrong. That's one thing that I really noticed that really helped me, and I think a little bit smaller sections to work with the mesh also helped. And then I'll straighten that out there, and we'll keep on coming. So that one is over. This one under, over. So make sure we've got those straight here. So straighten all that out. It's easier to do it now than it is later. So then we're going to come around, and this will be the last row in this section. So we're coming now. See, this is a little bit where I get confused because I always want to go under this, but because if we go on top of this, it would be going over this, and we don't want that because we just went over. So on this last one here, we're going to go down and under and then over the top. And that was something I had to really stop and think about each time, because that really confused me. So now we'll be going over this one and under this one. So we're opposite. So you start to cover up these. Otherwise, you'll have a large section that doesn't quite look right, and you see of your frame. So that kind of think about that, and especially when you're turning those edges, that's when you'll really notice kind of those things happening. So we want to be opposite here. And then I gotta straighten this guy out so he's not twisted. I'm going to go back in just a second here and fluff him out to make it look really good. And so this one ends up at the top here. Okay, so what I've got done is I've got 3 in there now, and I want to take a little bit of slack backwards and fill it out. And it's harder to do that when you're working with it, so it's easier once you get those 3 in to come back and do it at that time. And what we're going to do is just give those enough room to kind of fill out, and that way we get some fluffiness in it. And I didn't do it as much on these turns, and we don't want them too fluffy. We just want them a little bit fluffy. And this covers up the frame as well. And don't be afraid later to fluff it out a little bit more if you think it needed fluffed a little bit more. There's no right or wrong on that. So I'm going to fluff that last row out now. Okay, so now I've got to think about, I'll be coming through this one. And so we're going to go into this next row now, and I'll be on top of that one. And so I'm going to continue working in that, and I'll show you what to do when we run out of mesh and how to reload it. So as you're working farther, you can do a little bit more a row at a time instead of pulling it all through and coming back. It holds its shape a little bit better, so you can play with that a little bit more. You just want to cover that frame up as much as possible as you're working around it. So once you start to come back to where you're running out, I've got to think about that for a minute. That goes out and over, under. There's a couple of ways you could do it. You could use your pipe cleaners and tie it on to the last one, or you can just kind of tuck that under wherever the last one was. So I'm just going to pull this one out. I'm just going to kind of leave that there. And you could use a tad of hot glue and just hot glue it in, or just tuck it under another one. Or another thing I have done,
just let it ring,
is just wrap Another thing I have done is just kind of wrap this piece around this one and just continued working from there, and it'll just kind of hold in place. Or you can start it out like we did the last row. There's really no right or wrong, however you're comfortable. You might want to secure it off, or you just might want to kind of tuck it in and just continue working towards that bottom part. So I came along and I actually ended up doing 4 on that bottom row, and I'm just going to tuck that in and back there, or glue it or something like that. And I actually had enough. I could do 4 on the top row and 4 on the bottom row, and that was exactly 5 yards. And if you pick that up at the Dollar Tree, then you have just enough. If you wanted to do 2 rows and make it thicker, you could definitely do more rows and make it thicker. It's just totally up to you. And you can sit here and play with this as much as you want to. Try and get these all covered up. These ones that are loose on the end, pull these tighter towards the middle and fluff those out. And you can sit there and play with it all day. That's just going to be up to you when you want to stop. So on this one, I did the opposite direction. I had them going up and down, and there was more this way than there was on this. So this would take at least two of the, we'd be around 10 yards probably to do that guy. And it's just a different direction. It's going to be what you like. I think I actually like this one better, and it took less of that to do. So let's get ready, and we're going to decorate it and do our stem. Once you've messed with that as much as you want to, I came back and looked at the stem, and if you're doing Halloween, I think I would leave it, but I want to go more for Thanksgiving, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the stem off of there and put a different one on. And I'm not going to worry about taking these little nubs off of this guy, because we're just going to cover it up here. And I'm going to use just a small piece of burlap. And what I'm going to do is just cover this guy so he doesn't show through. And then I'm going to add some brown mesh over the top. So I'm just going to cut him and glue him around that. That's all I'm doing. And this guy has a little bit of an angle to him. Bring that angle part in. And then I'm going to glue him on down at the bottom. And you could use brown or green or whatever color you want to. I'm going to use brown. And you could even go more than one time around if you wanted to make your color darker. Just a little bit is all we need of both of those. So I'm just going to glue him around as well. Put one right down the middle, and I should be able to catch both of those edges with that. And what I did on this one is I didn't quite like it as high as it was, so I kind of tucked it down a little bit. So if you want to even do it down further, that's up to you. Whatever you kind of decide that you, whatever height you want that. I'm going to bring my mesh down on my burlap just a little bit more there. And then I'm going to add some big fall leaves, and so I like the big fall ones, and it kind of matches the size of our pumpkin. And I'm going to glue those on, and you may decide that the leaves are all you want, and if they are, there's nothing wrong with just doing the leaves. And you want a color that's going to show up. You don't want to put an orange leaf that's going to get lost. And then I really like the flowers in this. I really debated back and forth on the flowers, but I really do like the flowers. But I'm going to add a couple of other things here real quick. I like the curly cues of the wire. So I'm going to go ahead and cut some wire. And this is just floral wire. I picked this up at the Dollar Tree. It's nice and thick, but it's real bendable. And I'm going to wrap it around and kind of tie it off. And I want two coming out. So I'm going to wrap that around there so it doesn't come off. And what I always do with my floral wire, you can do this with your pliers, but I usually end up doing it with my cutters, is I always tuck my wire ends in so nobody ever gets poked. It's just something good to always do. And then I'm going to use a dowel here just to wrap these around. And I'll pull these out probably a little bit more here. And it gives it that fall feel, and I think it makes it more elegant. There's just something about it I really, really like. So I'm going to go ahead and glue a raffia bow on top, and then I'm going to add my flowers. So I've kind of got that there up at the top, and I've left the leaves on, and we're going to kind of see how we want these to go here. And you may even want to cut a leaf off and turn it another direction. If you do, that's okay. Just like that, I kind of think, and I'll probably bring that guy's leaves down just like that. I'm just going to go in here underneath and just glue them just the way I've got them right now. I like the flowers with these. Like I said, I wasn't quite sure about that for a while. That leaf go in that direction. That one go in that direction, and just tuck that guy in. And there is our little mesh weaved pumpkin. I hope you had a lot of fun doing it. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our video so we can continue to bring you more. Come on over and visit us at miriamjoy.com and help support us. Thank you so much today. God